Welcome back to another episode of Backstage Bucks County. Today with me, I have an awesome guest, local author of Braving the Workplace, A Million Degrees, Ben Salem, born and raised,
Yes.
and current resident of Bucks County, Dr. Beth Kaplan. So let's give it up for Dr. Beth Kaplan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So so you're currently living in like the Newtown area in Bucks
Yes.
County.
Mhm.
You're born and raised in Bucks County here.
Yes.
You've gone on to do some amazing things, publishing content, published author. You have 1,000 degrees from University of Penn.
Mhm.
So tell us where it all began for you.
Wow. So thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for
I-
being here.
Proud Ben Salem girl, proud Philly girl.
Go Birds!
Go Birds. I mean, that's at least every other breath. So for me, it just started like most people, understanding who I am, who I wanted to be, and really trying to make sense of where my place was in the world. I think, like many people out there, I just wasn't sure who I was and where I belonged. And for me, it felt like I was constantly judging myself in spaces that I wasn't sure I belonged in. And then I stopped. I stopped and started to question why that was. And it felt less alone for me to do that because most of the people around me were doing the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to give everybody a little bit of background, you're one of the leading, if not the leading expert in belonging. So in the
Yes.
workplace, in the home, you've published a ton.
Mhm.
So you just kind of mentioned it, where did that start for you? Do you remember like a certain age or a certain moment or event that happened where you kind of felt out of place to go down this
Forever.
journey? Really?
Forever. I don't know if there's any place where I've said, oh, I definitely belong here. And most people feel that way. I think in reality, it's very unique for me to hear anything different other than, they hear belonging research and no one's telling me about when they felt like they belong. It's
Right,
always when they felt like they were trying to fit in, which shout out, the opposite of belonging is fitting in, if anyone did not know that. So for me, growing up in Ben Salem, and shout out Ben Salem, I really loved where I was from. I felt really a sense of community, but at the same time, noticed some of the inequities that were going on, noticed how people were treated differently. And as I started to feel like I wasn't fit to be in certain spaces, I noticed that people around me were doing the same. So I was one of those people that actively sought out friendships and groups. I probably thought that having a big group of friends meant belonging, truthfully. It's like the stereotypical mean girls, right, situation. And I wanted to be like that, but I was not a mean girl, so that was
Shout
not
out
going
to
to work.
Regina George.
Yes.
If you've
Oh my
never seen the
God.
movie, yeah.
I know.
Catty Heron. Not that I've
God.
ever seen the movie.
I'm like, if
but
I was
keep
wearing
going.
pink, it would be better.
It's Thursday.
I was just going to say it's not Wednesday.
It's terrible that I know that. But
No, I
whatever.
think you have all girls.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
It's very true.
Right. So for me, it always irked at me a little. And I always found myself in the middle of those situations crafting people's communities. I did. Went to college. I was the pledge mom. So
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Pitt. I'm a Philly girl. Everything Pennsylvania, right?
I love it.
So I
and
went
then
to
Penn
Pitt.
for all your graduate degrees and everything,
Yes.
doctorate, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I just could not get enough of that feeling of making people feel less alone. So I started to adopt a mantra of leading people better than I found them.
Oof, I love that.
Yeah, I figured if that's all I do in life, I'm good. I felt good about that. Fast forward a little bit, joined the working world, originally was in PR, didn't like to be told what I had to write. That lasted all of a couple
I'm
months.
going to live the unscripted life. I like that.
That's exactly how I felt. Started to grow up in technology, started to run things like onboarding, which again, belonging, right, in the workplace. And I was on a steep trajectory up. I really was. And working for some of the most notable companies in the world. And the more and more I built for myself, the lonelier I felt.
Really?
I did.
Why do you think that was? Was it you just felt like empty, like you were trying to seek something? It was connection, but it wasn't always there? Was it hard? Like, what do you mean by that?
I felt really lonely. Like I was craving things that were new, craving possibility. And instead of possibility, I felt pressure. And I am the type of person that thrives under pressure, but started to notice that all my relationships around me were disappearing. Everyone started to lose friendships, started to really just not understand what was going on. And the more and more that happened, I was like a girl going into a horror story. You know, when you're screaming at the TV, you're like, don't go to that abandoned building. I was the one walking into the building constantly and well aware of it. So what that meant to me is I was sacrificing my identity for the workplace over and over again. I worked for an incredible leader who, again, promoted me often. She left. And then I was stuck with this gentleman who He just didn't like me. That's it. And you don't always have to like the people you work with, but you have to respect them.
Of course, yeah.
And I felt myself slowly fading and shifting and melting into someone that wasn't me anymore till I really sunk into a really deep depression.
How old were you about when this was happening?
If I have to be honest, I was probably around 40.
Wow, really?
Yes. And I decided it was on me, which many of us do. We think there's something wrong with us. But on paper, again, I had everything you could think of. I was packing in conferences of thousands. I was eloquent. I was admired. And I was so miserable. So I decided, again, I needed to take on more. Maybe if I did more, how was I going to win gold stars? And what I decided to do was be honest. I told this boss quite a few things about me. One, I told him probably the most sacred thing to me about my children. So my oldest is a cancer survivor.
Oh my gosh, wow.
He is. He was born with lung cancer. And I didn't talk about it in the workplace because I just didn't want that stigma associated with me. I didn't want people looking at me with sad eyes. That's what happens when you tell people usually. And he said to me, okay, I gotta go. Within the same breath. And I was like, I just sold myself out. I did. For what? For someone's approval, someone who constantly criticized me. And, I always say you shouldn't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't take advice from.
Yeah, it's definitely good advice. Yep.
And then I came back even harder. I said, you know what? I have to talk to you about this. I said, I just don't feel like I can go on. And he said, oh, are these like projects getting you down? And I was like, no, in life. I think I'm suicidal.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I did. And that was not something I told a doctor, my romantic partner, or anyone else at that point. And I felt pathetic. I did. And what he said to me next changed the trajectory of my life. It did. He said to me, yet again, I'm so sorry. I have a meeting. I got to go. I quit the next day. I did. And he said to me, I would have never expected this from you.
And that's all he had to say about it? It wasn't like, are you okay?
No, he tried to get me to stay.
Yeah.
No, he did not. And so I knew at that point I needed to do better for myself. I needed to care less about people's impression of me working at this big fancy company. I needed to get the relationships back and become more of myself. And that's really what happened. All of that at once. Moved back to Bucks County, transferred the kids into different schools and decided to sign up and go to grad school. And that's what I did.
Wow.
A lot at once, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's interesting because like a lot of, I'm really big on too, that connection for me is currency.
Yes.
Whether we're playing a show and I'm trying to connect with the person that's in the back that's on their phone, like you have an interesting perspective, and you have it too because you've been on a lot of stages and been, in the workplace. And the one thing that I always fear, and it comes from stuff. I was adopted when I was 6 weeks old, so fear of abandonment for me is top of the docket every day, whether I like it or not. So it's stuff that I've had to work through. But I think it shaped my personality subconsciously in a way where I seek connection constantly, and it's like an obsessive compulsive thing. And probably the reason I host the show, to just get to know people.
You study your own trauma.
Well, in a lot of ways, yeah. And it seems like you were able to take sort of that same thing, but hit a breaking point with it, but then bet on yourself and invested in yourself to say, all the external gold stars don't matter as much as the internal gold stars for me right now.
That's right. I was on a mission to redefine belonging. Most people think of belonging as part of a social group. They think of what can I connect to? And instead of looking at it that way, I think of how do we construct it and how do we connect back with ourselves? So the way I think about that and the way you may think about it, because you are craving that connection, right? That loyalty, all of the things that matter to you, is belonging is the innate desire to be part of something larger than ourselves without sacrificing who we are. It's that last part of the statement that makes it unique. And by the way, what Penn argued with me about the most, which actually made me stronger, because the more and more they were saying, hey, Beth, it's the new inclusion. And I'd be like, no, I just don't think so. You determine your own sense of belonging, and you determine that connection, not other people, or else that is inclusion.
So, yeah, I was going to say, so what is the difference then between belonging the way that you've studied it and really brought it to market as a thing versus inclusion, the way that we sort of know it in a corporate setting or even just in a social setting,
Inclusion is the invitation. It says you are allowed to be here. Now, there's so many instances, I'm sure, where you've been invited somewhere and you just don't feel it. You're not feeling it.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I
Like
get
you
it.
said, I'm sure when you look down and you see a crowd and someone on their phone, I cannot even imagine that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not great. But at the end of the day, it's like, people are going to do what they're going to do. I can't
Yeah.
control that, but
That's right.
it doesn't stop me from, you know, seeing the interaction and craving to get that person off their damn phone. So what can I do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because as an artist and a performer, and you know this too,
Mhm.
if you saw that and you looked out into a crowd and half the people in the back are moving around, they're leaving, walking in and out,
Yeah.
it's like that hits you on some level,
Oh yeah.
you
So
know?
I was just thinking to myself, I can't imagine how it works for you because you're still playing no matter what.
Yeah, we don't
It's
have a
like
choice.
pros
I'm
play
not
hurt.
stopping the song.
Right, where I can.
That's true.
I always find a way to make sure I've grouped them in, but I have the luxury of stopping what I'm doing or changing what I'm doing where you're playing through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. And it's not to say it happens often,
Mhm.
but different situations are all different. But do you find that the most successful people that have gone through the transformation of really studying belonging and, adopting it and actually putting it into practice, do they go inward first before they're seeking kind of the outward?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I believe it's something like we think about our own sense of belonging, who we are and where we belong, something like every 13 minutes in reality. Think
Wow.
about any time you've ever been in a new environment. It's even less time. You decide within the first 3 seconds whether or not you belong there. What's amazing is when people stop, internalize it, and decide what they're going to do next, especially if you're not feeling it. So anyone out there, if I leave a place, it's not offensive. It's just I know myself. I know what's going to be, and I don't want to be the person miserable in the room.
Yeah. You're just going from limbic system to frontal lobe at that point. You're saying like,
Absolutely.
I'm not letting emotion take over. I'm going to rationalize it and
Yeah.
decide.
That's right. And, I would hope that people internalize it. We know from the science that they do. It's what they do with it next that really counts.
So what's the path, I guess? Are you, other than, publishing and working inside of companies now,
Yeah.
is there like a transformation per se that, because that's a big buzzword right now that a lot of, coaches and influencers and
Yeah.
such, kind of talk about, but is there kind of a path or a transformation that you can sort of coach people through? Is that sort of what the program kind of looks like for you, or?
I think it's a lot of things. I'm one of those people I get bored that easy. So for me, my mission's always going to be to make people feel less alone. So in the coaching I do, it's really to understand where people are sacrificing parts of themselves that they shouldn't be anymore. Again, you're a musician. If you love it, but then you have to stop doing it for any reason, it's still in your DNA. It's in your blood.
Yeah.
It probably makes you feel less like you the furthest you get away from it. So I would coach you back.
It's a really good point. And, having a business and a family with 3 kids
Yeah.
and touring, there were 2 years that we played 120 plus shows a year. And
Whoa.
I was on the road, 2 kids at the time, then 3. And it finally got to a point where I was like, to your point, do I pursue this thing because I know I don't feel more like I belong anywhere than when I'm on a stage.
Yeah.
For better or worse, that's how I feel.
Right. I'm
It
sure you
doesn't
feel
mean
guilty about that, but yeah.
yeah, it doesn't mean that, I'm better than anybody else or at being a musician. It's just that that's where I feel most comfortable. And
Right.
a lot of times for me, all the times that I'm not on a stage get
Mhm.
very confusing at times.
Yes.
And
Because
it brings me back to the place that I feel like I am most comfortable.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, it's like reality hits in and I don't want to miss any more moments of
No.
soccer practice, watching my daughters do what they do.
Yeah.
So how would you help me kind of, balance that?
I think it's a negotiation, right? It's always a negotiation of your morals, your integrity. And that's exactly what we do on a daily basis for any of the decisions we make. I imagine it as a ping pong, not ping pong.
Like a tennis match kind of a thing, or
It can be, but the arcade game, it's the
pinball?
Pinball, that's it.
Yes.
You're constantly indexing between your decisions, your values, your sense of integrity, like the things that matter most to you. Where you're going to fall out of alignment is when you break the things that make you you. So if you were to fully give up music, no one else around you would be that happy with it either. I can assure you, you wouldn't be yourself. So I always say what you need to figure out first is the sacrifice noble or not? Okay.
Mm.
There's a lot of sacrifices that we make that are just not noble, but they just feel bad in the moment or good in the moment. Okay. For example, I know fully that music brings me back to myself and travel does.
For you personally.
For me personally. Just like nostalgia. You hear certain songs. I hear Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. I'm immediately thinking of high school, and I'm well past that age. But I mean, for me, it takes me back to a time where I was a different person. And you're different people at all times. That's okay. That's what makes you you. So you're paying homage to who you were and who it brings you to in the present. So I always say to people, really start understanding what your values are and what you're no longer willing to sacrifice. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have the conversation with the person that you might be partnering with about that to say, this is how I'm feeling. Let's work it out. A lot of the times we don't do that because we feel selfish, right?
Yeah.
You feel like, oh my goodness, I've missed one more recital. I can't miss any more.
Right.
But you also have to decide then if when you're in the situation doing something you don't want to do, if it's going to be your best self doing it. Because no one wants you at half speed. You don't want to be at half speed.
I have these conversations both internally and with my wife, like weekly.
Yes.
You know, trying to negotiate and figure out, you know, we got offered a wedding, say in like upstate New York or in Florida or something. And I negotiate first with myself now where it's like, yeah, the money's great. It'd be a lot of fun to be in Miami for 3 days. But, you know, now I'm at the point where I'm going to miss a dance competition, a soccer practice, and my 3-year-old just being a lunatic. And there was a point where I don't know that during and right after COVID, when we were all grounded, that I wasn't seeking the escape.
Of course.
As kind of part of it, like a lot of us were. You know, so now that things are somewhat normal again, you know, it's that negotiation, something that I didn't even realize I was sort of doing with myself.
Constantly.
But, yeah.
Right.
And is that kind of so your phrase like return to belonging, is that kind of like where that sort of comes from, and that whole negotiation, is that what that's doing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with the choices you're making. So for me, sisters, not twins in this one, where I would be worrying about the job I was being offered or worrying about these things. And I would be so nervous going to my husband, like, oh, this opportunity is huge. I could make this or I could do that.
Yeah.
Nervous, actually nervous. And I'd say, okay, can we talk about this? And it was never scary. Never one time. Because he would be like, oh, wait, hell yeah, go make that money.
Yeah.
Or at the same time, is this going to be good for your mental state? And that's really was a shift for me. I stopped being nervous to have the conversations because I realized we were on the same team.
Yeah.
And if he does not like something where it's going to be detrimental to my family, he's going to be the first to tell me.
Yeah. And it's usually, you know, things that you don't realize, like if you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious and just kind of in your head constantly about stuff, it takes a good partner in a healthy relationship to kind of call your bullshit on it, you know, a lot of times.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a story we tell ourselves in those. It's wild up here. And it's just wild
up there.
So I know that my husband is the person that grounds me.
Yep.
You know, he's
for me and
contextual.
my wife. It's the same. Yeah.
It's never the end of the world to him. He might say it's the end of the day, but not the end of the world, for sure.
That's a good line too.
I have to shout out to Stacy Epstein, who's probably watching this, who's one of my best friends, who is definitely where I got that from. I could not have made that gem up.
I was gonna say, man, you're really good at this.
Yeah.
So let's kind of transition to the workplace a little bit, because that's where you've done most of your work.
That's right.
So are you typically coaching people that are going through a career transition and trying to figure out if a new opportunity is right for them? Is it more they feel stuck in a job that they like, that's paying the bills, that they just don't feel connected to the work or to the people, or is it kind of a combination of all things?
It's a combination of all things. I find it lately to be group therapy. In fact, I love that. I'll go on book clubs and I'll talk to people, and it very little is about the workplace unless they are at their wit's end. Like they are at a point where, oh my goodness, this is my livelihood. I need to support a family, but I cannot be here anymore. And their gut instinct is to quit. But here's the thing. If they don't resolve the trauma that they're going through, it'll follow them. So it doesn't matter what job they go to. You carry up to the last 5 bosses with you at all times, whether they were great or horrible. Okay. And that could last up to 15 years easily.
So in that case, if you're coaching not only an employee, but then a CEO, or, you know, I'm a business owner, obviously. And how would you have coached your former boss, you know, that kind of gave you that very just cold reaction, you know, like how would you have sat him down and be like, look, go through my training so something like this doesn't occur in the future?
I would probably, that's a great question. I've never been asked that one.
I'm sorry to bring it up. It's just,
I love
top
it.
of mind, but yeah.
Absolutely. I would probably explain to him how you meet employees where they're at. because I think a lot of the time, most executive leaders see belonging as a soft skill, and really it has a huge impact on the bottom line. Meeting people where they're at, especially as a manager, is huge. Our managers have more impact on our mental health than our romantic partners and our doctors. So knowing the impact that you have, meeting people where they're at, and at the same time understanding the spectrum of care. So a lot of people think care and they're like, oh, thoughtfulness, friendliness. Care is a massive spectrum. Care is kindness, and for sure, but it's also clarity, right? Clear is kind. Whether or not you set expectations properly is care. Whether or not you're speaking my name in a room I'm not in for opportunity, that's care. So understanding this big, wide spectrum and the impact that you have on people. So if I were to go back to him, I would have said, you probably don't care about me, and that's fine. But at the same time, there are things you can care within my realm to make my job easier and to make it feel less of an uphill battle to work for you.
Yeah,
Just remove interference for me. Just, treat me the way you treat a normal person.
Not an employee or someone that you're paying to do a particular job. Yeah. It's because, like all of us, like I've had amazing mentors and bosses and some that over 20 years I still work and communicate and collaborate with today. And there's been some that I've had that same experience where it's very, non-emotional, and it's like going to a doctor and they're treating the disease, not the patient.
Right.
And it's like I showed up on a P&L and that's all that I was good to the company.
Yes.
Which, I've worked at Meta. Like I was, employee badge number XYZ and I had XYZ quota and that was it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you sort of go about training leaders and executives to shift their P&L brain off and go more right brain and be like, look, there's a whole level of care and kindness and communication and clarity that you have to be really proficient in?
So immediately when you said Meta and I was going down a path in my head of sales. So if you're in a sales environment, before you meet with a client, you're going to research them, right? You're going to learn who they are. You're going to understand what matters to them and what's important. That is exactly what you do with your employees, right? You understand, this is Beth. She went to school for rhetoric, political science, communications. She liked persuasion, and now she's an engineer. I would just say, I just was passing by LinkedIn the other day, and I just saw that you were this, and this, but you got into engineering. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And just asking those questions and forming interest in the person really will lead to the things they like, the things they don't like. Okay. And when you're doing that, it is very easy as a leader to be able to say, do you miss any of that? Do you want to do that in your job? You'd be surprised what that return looks like. It's insane. Because what happens is they think to myself, oh my goodness, they're actually learning about me. They care about what I care about. And you will put way more discretionary and non-discretionary efforts into your job. And if you're the type of manager that also goes the extra mile to incorporate that in that job, then you're really aces.
How have you seen that show up specifically on a P&L? Like, are there case studies or things that you've researched to say like, hey, look, we've gone through this program. People are way more, indoctrinated into this philosophy now.
Yeah.
And they were able to achieve X output or productive from their employees. Like, what's the output or the ROI that you're looking for?
Yeah. So care is the number one thing that people want from their leaders in the workplace. So when employees say that they feel like their leaders care about them, we see a higher return, higher productivity.
Okay.
Incrementally, not even anything in between. We see people that want to be there, that would recommend their other people in their lives to work for those companies or those leaders. And one of the questions I always like to ask is, are you asking if that employee would follow you to the next job? That's
a great question too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times, people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad bosses. Is like,
I love that one. So I'm sure you saw that article like 15 years ago, right? Do you know there was no research on that at all?
Really?
No, but you believed it, right? I did.
100%. It's stuck with me enough to say it publicly and be a small business owner, and I try to adopt that here.
Absolutely. I will tell you, humble brag, my research is the first to actually prove it.
Really?
Yeah, I believed it like everyone else. I quoted it as Bible pretty much.
Yeah.
And then when I went to do the research, when I had that situation with a leader that I just felt so bad around, right? I started to look at the research, and there was very little out there. So that's why I decided I was going to be the one who put it out there.
Wow.
But there was nothing around it. But we all believed it because it makes sense.
that hits home for anybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
everyone I know that's not in an entrepreneurial type of a path, that's in, medical device sales or pharma or SaaS or AI sales or marketing, whatever,
Mhm.
I'd say about 50% of them just can't stand the person that they work for.
That's right. And I would say if you are a leader out there trying to do better, ask your employees what they liked about their last few bosses. Ask what they didn't like. That's huge
Yeah.
right there. Start conversations like, what can I do to help you? What can I take off your plate? These are really small victories to you, but they're huge to the person on the other end.
Yeah, and you're right, calling out the obvious to like a super driven, very cutthroat industry like really anything, medical device. If you're in sales or go to market, it can
Right.
be as cutthroat and wicked as people can imagine.
Yeah.
So for you calling this like a soft skill, what would be the message to any mid-level sales manager out there that literally is just waking up every morning obsessing over bottom line production quotas and that sort of thing?
I would say if you're looking for a real game changer, you start looking at care, start mapping it out strategically. People always say to me, but Beth, then it's not authentic. Yes, it is. It can become authentic. I hate to also point this out, but it doesn't always have to be authentic care. I know it's bad. Don't hate me for that. But the reality is that the person on the other end just wants care.
They even just want the impression or the thought that you're going through the process, asking them about themselves and just trying to
learn.
Yeah,
that's
just
right.
Trying to learn.
That being said, if you don't follow up with it, it's going to diminish your returns significantly as well.
Sure. Yeah, you can send a Slack message being like,
Yeah.
hey, how are you doing?
Yes.
I'm sure that goes a long way.
It
but
does.
If there's no follow-up or no behavior change as
Right.
a result of it, then it seems disingenuous. And then it's like, I hate this
Absolutely.
person even more.
That's right. So I'll be honest with you. When I have that situation where I'm not so sure that I can interact as much with a person that I don't necessarily care about, I'll put it on my calendar. Check in with so-and-so.
Yeah.
Ask how their daughter's doing. So-and-so played baseball. And it's not disingenuous to me because I do want to care about them.
Right.
And this helps me do it. And at the same time, it makes them feel the fact that I do care about them. So whether I think it's authentic, I think we confuse the word organic and authentic quite a bit.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So I'm not the believer in bringing your authentic self to work. I'm the person that believes in bringing your best self.
I saw, I think, something you had done saying that same thing. And then I forget somebody else I saw just saying the exact same thing. And I saw it and I was like, wow, that's a really...
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
Right. I mean, you're not meant to bring every part of you to any place.
Yeah.
And why would you give that away? That's your currency, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes you you. There are certain things that you just don't need to share and you don't need to do. This is coming from the world's biggest oversharer. So I mean it sincerely. Just bring your best, not your most.
Yeah, I forget. It was like Mel Robbins or someone that had
Yeah.
said, I think, something really similar to that. And that stuck with me too. In a small business like we have, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people in Bucks County, small business owners, entrepreneurs, it's hard to not be authentic in the way you show up because there's no place to hide in a place with, less than 50 employees. People are going to sniff out your bullshit.
Absolutely.
So for people that might be still stuck in corporate mind where the P&L and profitability is the only thing that matters, what's like the first step that they could do to kind of help show that they're interested and build that kindness among their employees? Like something really simple that they can just try today.
I think the best thing that they can try today is to literally map out the people around them and see when the last time they had a real conversation with them was. And I'm not saying real about your business. So that's a mind shift. It's not about your vision and your mission. It's learning about what theirs may be and how you can be of service to them. And a lot of people would say that's leadership anyway, right?
Yeah.
You want to coach and grow the people around you. And how do you do that if you don't know who they are? And I'm not saying you know their mother's middle name. I'm saying you know enough about them for them to thrive, right? You want to move past what your needs are because I promise you it will show a return for you if you do it. You will get it.
Are you a believer in things like culture index and things as like a starting point to just kind of get those wheels in motion, or?
I'm a skeptic is what I'd say, because I think culture index and a lot of those ways of looking at things, they're based on a lot of assumptions that you're all going to be the same in a sense. Like they look for cultural
They try to
fit.
just package you as a certain thing.
That's right. And I would be the person that says, no, go against that grain. You don't always want a culture fit. You want someone that's going to be a disruptive fit. That's how transformation really happens, right?
How
Being
so? Like,
uncomfortable.
Go tell me more about that because I'm curious because a lot of times the bigger the company, the more that culture index and those things like have to be a requisite for any
Sure.
HR team. But why a disruptive fit? I mean, not like they're going to come in screaming and yelling and cause
Sure.
chaos, but go tell me more about that.
Because it'll teach you how to look at things in a different way. If you're all seeing things the same way, while it would be great for a purpose or mission, as long as all of your purposes and all your missions are the same, what happens is when people start to see the differences, they start to imagine that there's something wrong with them. They start to internalize it, and they're definitely not going to tell you. Definitely not telling the boss about that. They feel like they don't fit in, right? And while I always like to say you should fit out, not fit in,
I like that.
there are times when it's not going to serve you well to really go against your moral fiber based on something you thought you think should be part of it.
Yeah.
So I always like to say F the coulds, shoulds, and woulds. And that's really big. But a lot of us don't do that because it's your livelihood. You're tied to it. So going against the grain, if it is great if you're protecting your identity, but you're not in that situation necessarily. So most people around you are not going to tell you, and they're going to do things like make it look like they align with you when they don't. I always think of duck syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. Duck syndrome is, think about a duck. They look like they're gliding across the water, but their little legs are pedaling
they're
so
going
hard.
so fast. Yeah, yep.
And there's so much doubt in their head, and they make it look good and look aligned and look easy. So if you're a leader out there, you have to really question whether or not everyone nodding their head at you is authentic in that sense. And that's where authenticity does matter.
Yeah, it's interesting because specifically to sales and like go-to-market, sales is, at least in my experience in 20 years, I've had a lot of sales roles for software companies, AI, at Meta specifically, and they are looking for someone who is going to follow the process, that is young enough, coachable enough, and they want to see, can you do your own prospecting? Can you follow the rules of the system that we've given you?
Discovery, qualification, follow the pipe, right?
Exactly right. And it almost looks like they're looking for a very specific cog that can process the information and the leads to get a predictable outcome, which is going to be 30% close rate or whatever that is. I'm a musician and a kind of spastic creative person. So in a sales role, I was always kind of the lone wolf disruptor guy.
Yes.
That was probably pinned a little bit different. Like I wasn't great at updating my CRM and Salesforce every day. I can't follow process the way that others can.
Sure.
And, I don't know if that was ego or immaturity or whatever it was, but I was always so result driven that I would run through brick walls to get stuff done and always was a top performer, but I did it sort of on my own terms.
Well, it sounds like you were a disruptor. You weren't someone that was going to...
I was just making sure I'd sort of, if that was the example you were going for, that hits home for me. So.
I've seen it work the best that way, and I have a background in go-to-market also. Okay. So there is a fine balance, right, of making sure that the rigor is there, right? So you can't necessarily not enter something into Salesforce, for example.
Right, yeah.
That's your cash register. But at the same time, you need to be able to do what works for that client at the end of the day. And that's usually transformation and disruption. And that's the same thing for your employees, literally the same thing. If you're hiring all the same people and wondering why you're not getting results, you just answered your own question.
Yep.
Because you need someone that's going to think outside the box. You need more creatives that are going to be able to say, okay, this is not the solution we offer, but this is what they need. So I'm falling in love with their problems.
Yeah.
That's it. Sales reps out there that fall in love with the client's problems, they are the most successful that I've seen.
Oh, that hits at my heartstrings. One of my favorite songwriters and artists, to go on a nerd music path for a second, this guy named Larry Fleet. He's not super well known, but he's a Nashville songwriter. He's written for Morgan Wallen and all these amazing people.
I've actually really have heard of him.
Really?
My son's a huge country music fan, so yeah.
Oh, cool. So my wife and a bunch of people went to see him at the Keswick Theater last week, and he has this line in one of his songs. It's called "My Problems," and it's, if I could fall in love with my problems, maybe they'd leave me too. But it's a
that's so fascinating.
It's such a country line, because it's like all these things I fall in love with end up leaving me heartbroken, driving me to depression. So if I could just fall in love with my problems, maybe they'd leave me too.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You fall in love with someone else's problems. You feel like what? You're in it together.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with every walk of life. I always love to do this test, and anyone out there listening should do it as well. when someone's going through crisis and you say we're in it together, you should see how their body physically changes.
Really?
They are pensive and then they drop their shoulders, or there's certain tells that they give right away. And it's the same in every walk of life. It really is.
So would you, just for the layperson that, you know, I try to be in tune with this as a business owner with the people that we have here that I truly, really care about. Some were clients, some have been friends for a really long time. We share the common bond, most of us, of being weirdo creatives, musicians. And I think that's
Stay
the
weird.
thing,
Yeah.
you know, it's the thing that unites us all. But in a more corporate setting, does this fall under, not to like oversimplify it, but like emotional intelligence to a degree? Or is this something with belonging that you feel like is a totally different vector or pillar of like corporate communications, I guess?
That's a really good question. So I want to just say yes, because but that's not going to be helpful. So yes, I do believe that you do need a certain amount of emotional intelligence, and it's very, very difficult to test for that in an interview. So shout out if you're looking for that in the interview. Let me know if you find it. That's why most of us feel like they're a little snowed over when you have an interview and then it turns out that the person doesn't work. I do think belonging and emotional intelligence are heavily connected. And psychological safety is another one I would really throw out there.
That's interesting too. Yeah, I'm thinking back to times where I've been on interviews and you think the interaction goes really well. You know, you have proof points, you have, you know, what you've done in your career.
Yeah.
You get a good vibe, I guess, from the person. But then you don't get a call back, or there's, you know, they say, well, you know, we were just looking for someone different.
Okay.
You know, it's all case by case, of course, but like, how would you explain when something like that happens?
I don't know if I can explain it necessarily, but what I would say is I hope that you or anyone else interviewing realizes it's a bidirectional feed, so that you are supposed to be interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
It's a great
I
call.
don't interview very much, but if I were, I would probably really ask questions about the person's leadership style. What are their expectations? What does success look like to you? Because that, again, is that pinball machine. You're anchoring back and forth. And you know right away if it's going to work. You do. I've been that person that has ignored my intuition 100%, and it never serves me well.
Yeah.
So I would really think about making sure that it's a two-way street when you're doing that.
How do you do that as someone who's the interviewee, you know, and not be threatened or intimidated by, you know, going in prepping, knowing that, you know, hey, you have to be as good of a fit for me as I have to be for you.
I would have a certain amount of questions or things that I need to stick to and get answered, as weird as they may feel. And I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I may ask them at the interview if they think I'm a fit.
That's a great way to close it.
Yes.
You know?
I've never left an interview without asking at least. Whether or not they give me a straightforward answer is also very telling.
Yeah. It's like, we'll talk about it. We'll take it back and review it with the team. And, you know.
And when I interview, I do the same thing. I never leave an interview call without telling the person where they stand. Can you just imagine if everyone did that and you wouldn't feel so ghosted all the time?
That's the worst.
Yeah,
there's nothing worse than that. Whether it's a prospect, a client, an interview, you know, a relationship you have in your personal life.
Absolutely. Exactly. I'd rather be told straight up if it works or if it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a straight shooter, if you couldn't tell already. But that's huge. I'd respect the person interviewing me so much more if they were like, you know, Beth, you're a really cool woman, but you're just not the right fit for us because we need X, Y, and Z. And I'd say, thank you for your time. Let's be in touch.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I've also been on the receiving end where I'm like, you know, this is a super cool company. I just think there might be a better candidate out there that you should be talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that, you know, because it's very hard to be that direct because you don't want to let people down and for, you know, all the million reasons. Do you find that more companies that you work with do that versus like just kind of leave people stranded, or you still think it's more?
I think it's people are like options. They like a lot of choices. I think that if I was the person's fit on their first go around, they would probably wait, right, to see what other people are out there.
Yeah.
No matter how much a fit, you know, if I was internalizing that would be. So no, I don't think a lot of companies do it that way. I think more of the successful companies I hear about do that. They won't put a candidate through, and they're starting to look at their practices to be a bit more humane.
Yeah. Do you find that you have more, not success necessarily, but do you find that are you having more success transformation wise, or just people, you know, subscribing and adopting this philosophy of belonging more on the personal side or more at the corporate level?
Personal, for sure.
Really?
Yeah. It's still in most CEOs' top 3. belonging, but they usually have so many issues that belonging falls to the bottom of their list.
For themselves or for their team and
Both,
their employees?
all the
Really?
way around. Yeah, most executives at the top feel lonely. That's definitely something documented. You know, when you're at the top, it's hard to know who to trust. It's hard to know who to talk to. And if you don't have a boss, most people, they feel a lack of partnership around them. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the hardest thing for them to do? I guess it's a smattering of all kinds of different things, you know,
Yeah.
the kindness, the clarity, a lot of the things you talked about. But where do you start with a CEO most times?
One of the questions I like to ask CEOs is, what do they like learning from when it comes to their employees? What do they enjoy learning? Who do they enjoy learning from? And what? And they, you know,
And if they say nothing and nobody, then it's usually a pretty
I'm
bad
like, well, that's where we
indicator.
got to start. Because the thing is, learning is bi-directional. I learn way more from the people that I'm around than I think they learn from me.
Yeah.
That's huge. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I really do believe that, because enjoying and learning and maybe feeling a little uncomfortable is really what's going to help you grow.
Yeah.
So if you're taking the time to learn from people around you, and that could be anything from what's being said at the water cooler to a new surgical procedure that's being taught. I mean, there's every facet you can think
Sure.
of.
Yeah.
I think that it just has that, I don't know if you'd call it a growth mindset.
It's like an abundance mindset.
It
to
is
a
an
degree,
abundance
too,
mindset.
you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. I think that that's really what does it for people, is feel like they're being heard and they're valued and seen, and especially when it's from the top down, truly. And if you're creating a culture like that, that means that you're giving that disruption and that okay to everyone in the organization to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the hard question.
Yeah.
So for a CEO, you're doing some of the training, they're going through this.
Mhm.
How does this show up, or how have you seen it show up on the bottom line to a P&L?
Sure. So retention is a real easy one.
Okay. Yep. Yeah,
People
that makes a
don't-
lot of sense.
People don't want to work for jerks. I always like to say, if you're trying to really attract talent, say we're a company that doesn't like to work with jerks. That to me
It's pretty simple.
has baited me many times.
Really?
Yeah. I don't want to work with jerks. Do you? No.
No.
No one wants to work for jerks. So looking at your retention, engagement, but I'd also look at your individual progression of employees. Where are people going in their careers?
That's an interesting one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like paths of promotion, you know, all that kind of stuff I imagine too, right?
Absolutely. And path to praise. So it doesn't even have to mean
Ooh, that's a good one.
it doesn't necessarily mean promotion being into leadership. I mean, leadership is a lot of administrative work. It's not
Yeah.
that exciting.
Trust me, as someone who's made that transition,
Oh my
I
goodness.
always
How much paperwork?
go back to being a contributor or starting a
Absolutely.
business, which is the ultimate, you know. but-
Absolutely. So I always like to say it's really a matter of understanding what that path to praise looks like. You're going to have people you work with that love some like praise. They want to see it in the sky,
the
right?
Gold stars, you know.
Gold star. Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Some people want to see it written in the sky. Some people want a healthy note sent to them to say, Beth, I liked when you said this. It resonated to me like that. I have a person that I work with, such a star, wants to die anytime someone publicly praises them. Completely cannot handle it. Loves, in fact, and also doesn't believe it, right? A little bit of imposter syndrome in
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when someone privately gives them feedback, it means the world to them. They light up. People think they don't want praise because they don't accept praise in the way that you would accept it, or I may take it.
Sure.
So it's understanding that path to praise just as much as promotion. A lot of people will tell you, believe it or not, that money is the last thing on their list when it comes to promotion.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just feeling valued, recognized, and cared for, which is number one.
Yeah. The motivation between individuals is so vastly different for every
Yeah.
person.
That's right.
I was always the person in sales or, you know, on marketing teams, whatever. If there was a scoreboard
Mhm.
up in the lounge,
Yes.
I had to be
Had
at the
to.
top of that scoreboard. I don't care what I had to do,
Oh, yeah.
how many calls I had to take, whatever, I would find a way to get to that. I could care less about the money,
Mhm.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Meant nothing to me. It was more the
Oh, yeah.
validation and, you know, the adoration to myself that I proved that I could do it.
Oh, completely. I was not a sandbagger, for the record. But
Oh, come on. We all were at some point.
Yeah. I will say that I was not the person you wanted in your forecast calls, because I'd have my own number in my head and I'd be shooting to it. And then I'd get to the reality of what someone else was expecting. And it didn't matter. I could be 30% above quota. But then we'd be in the rigor type of the meeting and I'd be like, but I'm 30% above my quota. Who
Yeah.
cares?
So who cares?
Who cares? But they do. They care. Because obviously transparency, visibility, accuracy. But No, I think having your own goals in that sense is really what does make you stronger.
Yeah, and that's being the lone wolf or disruptor or salesperson. Sounds like
Yes.
you were a lot
I
like
was.
me.
Yes. I think so too.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's to your point about being lonely, like there were a lot of those calls where I got my ass chewed out for, not necessarily the Salesforce thing, but
Mhm.
for, it was really hard to forecast me and my book of business.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so I was like a corporate nightmare, but at the end of the quarter, I
You always
was
pulled it out.
again, I
Yeah,
wanted, I
that's
was
right.
going to find a way to be number one. But
Oh,
all the
God,
other
yeah.
days of the quarter, they were like, "What are you doing?"
You were a
Like,
mystery.
yeah,
Like they were like, we know he's going to pull it out, but at the same time, God, do we hate tracking it?
yeah,
Yes.
it sucked. So I was kind of
Absolutely.
put on an island, and
Yeah.
the best managers I've ever had sort of embrace that and
Mhm.
be like, "Look, you're the most entrepreneurial person we have on the team.
Yeah.
And we have to hold you to a standard. We have to make sure you're following the process to a
Right.
degree. But I believe in you and your ability to get this thing done."
Oh, yeah.
And that was to me like the ultimate compliment.
Yeah. Or I bet you it was, hey, listen, innocent till proven guilty. Until you start messing it up, we'll just keep going with your way.
100%.
And when it
yes.
doesn't work, then we go back to my way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's probably the same thing I've been told most of
Yeah.
my career. Yeah.
So, I mean, would you lean into that as a leader and almost embrace that to the point about being, authentic and belonging? I felt like I belonged at the end of a quarter when we had the big all hands meeting, and my name was shot out, quarter after quarter for being a top producer. But all the other days of the year, other than those 4 days,
You're only as good as your last sale.
I was only as good as my last quarter.
No, I think that is a sacrificial form of belonging, to be honest, because you're probably giving up parts of yourself along the way that weren't noble, potentially. So, or you could say that's dissimulated. So these are terms that are now out there, which is great. But dissimulated means that you have a purpose. It may not just be the company's purpose, right? So you do things your way because of that. And you don't feel bad about it, which is great, by the way. Most people think it's a negative form of belonging. It's not. As long as you're good with you,
Yeah.
that's real belonging. That is. It's when you have to give up a part of yourself for it. So if you were to change what you did into a way that changed the way you acted as a person or showed up, that's where it's negative. When you're sacrificing identity, which doesn't sound like you did.
Yeah. The sacrifice I made is that my form of belonging was the proof that I could take my own my own path, but my belonging was aligned to a number and performance.
Mm.
So that was my identity at
Right.
some of those companies was, we don't know what the hell he's doing all the time, but he finds a way to get it done.
Right.
So my belonging was attached to
Your performance.
being over quota every quarter.
That's hard. That's really hard because I'm going to guess that's not always sustainable.
For sure.
No.
Yeah.
It feels real good when you're doing it. It's such
It
an
does.
adrenaline rush.
Oh, it's
yeah.
addicting.
And
for sure.
that was what was confusing to me when I was in that situation with that manager that I had, that really I was a top performer. I was accolade central, and I just felt so lonely about it. Truly.
We have a lot of this in common.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, again, my sense of belonging at a lot of these twists and turns I've had throughout my career were always aligned with a performance metric. It
Yes.
was, to a degree, at times, almost a resistance to, maybe it's the musician in me,
Yeah.
and just thriving in chaos. I was almost resistant to the process because I always felt like I could achieve what I wanted to on a different path.
Right.
And I don't know. I just have maybe like a lot of disruptor employees do, and this might be a red flag on an interview and why I didn't get some of these jobs. But I don't know. I just always felt so entrepreneurial in nature that I just felt like I know I'm going to get it done. Sometimes I may, skate off of the canal path, but
Well, it sounds to me like you felt like you maybe were playing small also. And when you felt like you were playing small, it was not going to work for you. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
Same. And I think what I believe I'm hearing is that you started to feel like, while I may not belong to something greater than me as far as a company, I can belong to myself.
100%. I was just thinking the same exact thing.
Which is
Which I think is
arguably
a good thing, right?
way harder to achieve. Yeah, absolutely. You have to feel good with you at the end of the day. Whether you impress a boss isn't really going to be what gets it done. I mean, it may
Yeah.
feel good temporarily, but if you're good with yourself, then you're ahead of the game. You're winning.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking me down that
Yes.
that therapy path.
Happy to.
So 3 things we always ask everybody that
Yeah.
comes on the show, bringing it back to Bucks County.
Mm.
The first thing is, if we were to open up your Spotify playlist right now, what song would we see, or what artists are you listening to right now?
Oh my God, what am I not listening to? You know what? Honestly, this week I've been going back to the National. Big National fan.
Really?
Yeah, love it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
White Stripes this week too.
So like early 2000s, kind of like rock and roll sort of a thing?
Yeah, National Trouble Will Find Me has been on my playlist this whole
Yeah.
week. I always like to ask people what their anthem is. I'm going to ask you the same thing back on your podcast, but
Yeah.
mine is Seven Nation Army for sure. That's my anthem.
Man, that takes me to Penn. I'm a huge Penn State football fan, and that's one of the songs they play in the crowd.
Really?
Oh my God.
That's my song.
Yeah.
That's my walk-on song. That is my closer if I was going to be a baseball player.
Really?
Oh, hands down. I write about it a lot in the book, understanding what your anthem is, because it really gets you through hard times. There's usually, most people have two anthems. They have a quitting anthem and a staying anthem.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, do you have an
Wow.
anthem? I'm sure you do.
I'm trying to think of it now. Man, I can give you an anthem for me in terms of an album that I go to when I'm in a headspace and I just need to like get myself back. There's a band called The Dangerous Summer that's like an old school emo band.
Yeah,
But
I've heard of them.
I've become friends with AJ Perdomo, who's their lead singer and songwriter. We've collabed on a bunch of songs together. But they had an album in 2009, I think it was Reach for the Sun, it's called. But like
That's it.
the I can teleport to anywhere I want to if I'm listening to that album.
Words or melody?
It's both for that, which is why I gravitate towards it,
Right?
because I'm like a lyrical snob. Like
Yeah.
I'll go to, from Neil Young to Chris Stapleton to Eric Church to like anything for a good lyric
Same.
storyteller.
Yes.
But if, a lot of times country can be a little, just like anybody else says, like slow and twangy. I need all of the things coming together at once for me to really be immersed in it.
It's the science of music is fascinating.
It's crazy.
So I'm always coming in like intensely, and I have a friend who her anthem is The Bones by Maren Morris. It couldn't be slower.
It's a great song.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm more scorched earth, and she's more like chill and relax and let me figure this out. And I'm a Seven Nation Army.
I'm so much like you.
Yeah.
Like I need to be my brain has to be like processing chaos for me to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
When I'm listening to music.
Absolutely.
So like the Foo Fighters and like big anthem rock is our thing.
I've seen the Foo Fighters a million times. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
You
Probably.
going this year?
No, I'm not going this year, but I've seen them probably about 7 times. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. Love them.
Oh my gosh. They're so it's funny. We had David Ossickinen, the drummer for the Hooters, on this show recently. He the new drummer for the Foo Fighters, this kid Ilan Rubin, who is I don't even know how to describe him. He's louder and faster than Dave Grohl and plays harder than he does, but he also sings and writes songs and plays every instrument. He's an absolute.
Imagine?
He's dropped from another planet.
Auditioning in front of Dave Grohl. I've thought about this way more times than a person
Really?
should. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just can't even imagine that. Amazing.
So he was the drummer for Paramore, Angels and Airwaves, and like a lot of.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he produced those albums with like Tom DeLonge and a lot of these guys. Like played
Oh
everything.
my
on
God,
the
my
album,
mind would be
produced.
blown.
You have to watch some of the
Okay,
stuff on him.
I will.
But David Ossickinen tutored him when he was living in San Diego when he was a young kid. He was his first drum tutor. So we asked him on the show, like, who do you think is the best drummer in the world right now? And he's like, you're not going to know who this is yet, but you're about to. And he didn't tell us why. And he's like, it's this kid, Ilan Rubin. And 2 months later,
Love it.
it's announced he's the drummer for the Foo Fighters. So,
Do you know, I love those stories. They just feel like so meant to be.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So second question, your favorite meal if you're going out to a restaurant anywhere in Bucks County, like not restaurant, but the actual dish that you're going to order at that place.
Anyone listening is going to laugh. I know good restaurants, but I'm not 100% a foodie. I just will always have the latest restaurant.
Yeah.
My favorite meal? I'm such a simple girl. I don't know why this is coming out to me right now. Maybe because we're in New Hope, but I'm thinking of the Salt House, and those cheeseburgers are so good.
Oh, awesome call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers at the Salt House.
We walk down there all the time.
Oh my God. It's
Yeah.
like, honestly, if I was going to be healthier, I'd probably say sushi or like a really good salad, but I'm going to go with the Salt House cheeseburger.
I love it. Great answer. Last question before
Yeah.
we let you go. What's one thing that only a local would know about Bucks County? You grew up here. You live here currently. Kids are in school here.
Oh my goodness, I sound like an advertisement for Bucks every time I talk about this. I think Bucks County is the most beautiful place to live in the entire country.
Really?
I do. I've lived in San Francisco. I've lived in so many places around the world, and this is the most serene. This is the only place I've ever lived where I feel like I could drive down the road and every day without fail feel just honored to be part of it, which is belonging. And I also feel like it's one of the most peaceful places to be through. What I love about it is I feel like I can be my own person and that I have got a million cheerleaders around me, right? I think that Bucks County is the hype county to Philadelphia. I do. I think we are the best hype men and women that are out there. And I think, shout out, that would probably be what Bucks County should be known most for.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great answer. Yeah,
Thanks.
we've had some really some interesting answers to that question, but yeah, I agree. I mean, we've traveled all over the world playing music, or not the world, but the country at least, playing music. And, you know, each place has kind of its charm and its thing.
Yeah.
To your point about San Francisco,
Love
you
it
know,
there.
it's beautiful there. Nashville's beautiful, beautiful. The South is beautiful. The people are amazing. But every time we come home, it's like, oh, right. That's why we stayed here.
It's serene here. I mean, you get farmland. You feel like you're connected to something. And at the same time, there are places that you can go and be part of something when you want to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's performative. It feels like it is at your speed anywhere you are at in the journey, truly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks
so
for
where can
having me.
people buy Braving the Workplace in your book and follow you with your content?
So buying the book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, anywhere you buy your books now, you can buy it. And I can be interacted with on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok and just about anywhere.
What's your handle on Instagram? Just so
Dr.
everybody
Beth
knows.
Kaplan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Beth Kaplan, it was awesome having you. Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much. And thanks for taking me through a little bit of personal development therapy myself.
You got it. Absolutely.
Awesome. That's a wrap for Backstage Bucks County with Dr. Beth Kaplan. See you next time.